The 1980s and the 1990s witnessed one of the most chilling chapters in American criminal history, the reign of the Green River Killer. His name was Gary Ridgway, and his heinous crimes haunted the Pacific Northwest, particularly the Seattle area. The predator's choice of victims, methodical approach, and the sheer number of lives he claimed marked him as one of the most notorious serial killers in U.S. history. Gary Leon Ridgway was born on February 18, 1949 in Salt Lake City, Utah. His troubled childhood and tumultuous relationship with his parents laid the groundwork for the darkness that would later consume him. Growing up in a dysfunctional household, Ridgway exhibited troubling behaviors from a young age, including an interest in torturing animals, an early sign of the disturbing path he would follow. Ridgway's criminal record began in the 1980s, well before he became infamous as the Green River Killer. Arrested on charges related to solicitation and evasion, he had already come under the scrutiny of law enforcement. However, it wasn't until the bodies of young women started appearing in the Green River and its surrounding areas that the magnitude of his crimes became apparent. The Green River Killer's victims were primarily young women engaged in high-risk activities, particularly those involved in prostitution. The predator targeted vulnerable individuals preying on their marginalized status to carry out his crimes. The exact number of his victims remains uncertain, with Ridgway initially confessing to 48 murders. Subsequent statements suggested that the actual number could be higher, possibly exceeding 70 lives brutally cut short. He would often pick up his victims in areas known for prostitution, engage in sexual acts, and then strangle them. After committing these gruesome acts, he callously disposed of their bodies in wooded areas or along the banks of the Green River. The remote locations served a dual purpose, allowing him to both carry out the crimes undetected and delay the discovery of his victims. The first known Green River Killer victim was Wendy Lee Caulfield, whose body was discovered in the Green River in 1982. As more victims began to surface, panic and fear gripped the communities surrounding Seattle. The gruesome discoveries of young women in various stages of decomposition painted a grim picture of a serial killer who remained elusive. Law enforcement faced numerous challenges in their pursuit of the Green River Killer. The victims shared a common vulnerability, often leading transient lives with minimal connections to family or friends. This, coupled with the killer's ability to blend into the society, made it difficult for the investigators to identify the suspect. Despite the challenges, the investigation became one of the largest in U.S. history. Task forces were formed, and the efforts of local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies were pooled to capture the elusive predator. The search for the Green River Killer spanned years, marked by false leads, dead ends, and the haunting reality that the murderer continued to roam free. The turning point in the Green River Killer case came with advancements in forensic technology. DNA testing, a relatively new tool in the early 2000s, played a pivotal role in linking Ridgway to the crimes. As technology evolved, investigators were able to re-examine evidence from crime scenes and match it to the perpetrator. In 2001, Gary Ridgway was finally arrested, bringing an end to the reign of terror that had gripped the Pacific Northwest for over 2 decades. His arrest was a result of DNA evidence connecting him to several of the Green River Killer's victims. Facing overwhelming evidence, Ridgway began to cooperate with investigators, providing information about the locations of some of his victims' remains in exchange for a plea deal. In 2003, Gary Ridgway pleaded guilty to 48 counts of murder. His confession detailed the horrifying acts he had committed over the years, shedding the light on the extent of his brutality. The plea deal spared Ridgway from facing the death penalty, but he was instead sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom proceedings offered a glimpse into the mind of a remorseless killer. Ridgway's lack of empathy and his detached, matter-of-fact descriptions of the murders left an indelible mark on those who followed the case. Families of the victims, while gaining a semblance of closure, but left to grapple with the profound loss inflicted by the Green River Killer. The legacy of the Green River Killer case extends beyond the courtroom. It raised important questions about the vulnerabilities of marginalized communities, the challenges of investigating serial crimes, and the role of forensic technology in solving cold cases. The case also highlighted the need for improved communication and collaboration among the law enforcement agencies. Gary Ridgway's name became synonymous with the darkest aspects of human nature. The Green River Killer case serves as a chilling reminder of the capacity for evil that can lurk within seemingly ordinary individuals. The communities affected by Ridgway's crimes continue to grapple with the scars left by his reign of terror as they remember the lives lost and the collective trauma endured. In the annals of criminal history, the Green River Killer stands as a haunting figure, a symbol of the horrors that can unfold in the shadows, and a testament to the resilience of those who seek justice in the face of unspeakable crimes.